So in this tutorial, we are going to look at how we can add buttons to our window and how we can get them to respond to certain events. So I opened my label demo and I saved it as button demo. And let's go ahead and modify some things before we even get started with this one so we won't forget. We need this class to be button demo. And then down here in this main, we need to change that because we messed that up, or I messed that up in the last tutorial. Okay, again, we want our documentation for this class to represent what we are actually going to do. Okay, and since we are setting up with buttons now, we're going to change this to sets up window, label, and buttons. Okay, pause it and double check, make sure yours looks like this before we get started. And let's have a comment. We're going to do lots of comments. So as a general rule of thumb, you kind of want to design the layout of your window before you start adding the events. So that's what we're going to do with this tutorial. We'll start by making sure that the buttons are in the right location and they say what we want them to say. And then we'll worry about coding them later. Feel free to press enter there if you need to. I just stretched out my window a little bit. Oh, and I have a typo in my comments. So we are doing a column span of 2 here because we want the hello world to be centered over basically our 2 buttons. Now let's add our 2 buttons. Okay, pause the video if you need to copy the 2 command buttons in the second row's code. Notice that the restore button has a state of disabled, which means when you execute the code, you can't click that button, but you can, well, you can click it, but it's not doing anything right now. Now that we have it looking kind of like we want it to look, let's work on making the events happen when the buttons click. To do this, we need to create some new methods. We're going to create a clear method and a restore method. Notice that these methods that we're creating need to be aligned with our init definition, but these are still part of our class, so they still will be indented from class. Here's our function definition or method definition for our clear. Remember, because this is part of the class, we have to include the self attribute. We include a doc string. What this button should do is take the label and set it to an empty string. It's going to change the clear button state to disabled, and then it's going to make the restore button show up, which is not enabled, it's normal. See, they're trying to trick you. Okay, our second method is the restore method. Again, you need to send it the self parameter, our doc string, and then we are changing the text label back to hello world when this button is clicked. We're setting the clear button back to normal so they could clear it again if the user could clear again if they chose. And then the restore button will become disabled. Okay? Now if you run this program right now, nothing is going to happen. Wonder why? Well, we haven't associated these methods with anything else in our code. So where you have your 2 command buttons in the second row, we need to have those with event handlers. So for each of these, within your parentheses, do command equals the name of our method. So we'll do self.clear for this one. And for this one, we'll do command equals self.restore. All right, now let's save it, run it, and if we clear, it clears. If we restore, it restores. And we can do that for forever. How cool is that? You guys should be really proud of your progress that you've made this semester. This is pretty cool for a high school student to know how to do this.